Funny story. All I had to do was show these deer my PSE bow and they just tipped over. If you want the same thing to happen to you, I want to make it easy. PSE giveaway. All you gotta do, like, subscribe, comment to be entered in the giveaway. Simple enough. You want to be cool? You want a PSE? That's all you gotta do. If I had to be honest with you, when used properly, I'm all for feeding. I'm all for feeding deer. A lot of you know this. It's all about benefiting the herd to me. I'm not necessarily the guy that'll sit over a corn pile and try and kill deer. I like supplemental feeding. I use a lot of Big and J products. I use the BB squared religiously where legal, and that's the thing. It's not legal everywhere. So there's ways in which we can still keep our deer fed in the off season. And truly, as a habitat manager, if you're looking to take the next step on your property, you've done the food plots, you've done all these other things, you really need to, and you're really looking to take the next step, you need to take care of the deer in the time in which they are under the most amount of stress. That's from November until green up. Most of us are done. We leave the woods and we don't worry about the deer. And don't get me wrong, the deer don't need us to survive. But if you want them to thrive, there's things that we can do in order to help them. So like I said, we're legal. I mean, I'm not talking about supplemental feeding in this video. That's not the point of this video, but where legal, if you can, you need to be using a high protein, high fat food source. You guys know the drill with this already. If you've watched my videos, do not be using corn late in the year. If you don't know why, watch the other videos. You can kill your deer. Some of you are laughing, some of you are giggling right now, and I'm serious. It happens. You may be doing more harm than good. So supplemental feeding where legal is great. But let's say you can't bait. Let's say you can't bait in your state. Sadly, some of that doesn't always stop you guys. And trust me, I get it. We have these debates about, some of the diseases that can quote unquote possibly be spread or not or whatever. We're not going to have that conversation today. You have your own opinion about that. And even so, some of you are still baiting. Whatever. I'm nobody's babysitter. Do what you want on your own property. But there's something we can do where we don't have to break the law in a place where you can't legally bait. So for the reasons like CWD or whatever else, there's a lot of times these baiting bans in certain areas, certain counties, certain states as a whole. But there's a way that I like to keep my deer herd healthy in states in which I can't do supplemental feeding. Okay. So this is a great way to actually gain intel and an inventory of what bucks made it through your year, almost like throwing a bag of Big and J out might do. Okay. This is one of my favorite ways and it works super fast. Going out and doing some sort of timber stand improvement and doing it hopefully so that it aligns with your ultimate goals. Don't just cut a tree to cut a tree. If you had bedding areas you were trying to create or you had some logging that was going to be done, doing this in the time of the year in which we're going to, like I said, it's going to benefit the property long term, but also benefit the property right now. What do I mean by that? If we cut trees, maybe we flush cut them, maybe when we fell those trees, and maybe on your property it's hinge cutting. Got videos for that. There's a time and a place. Don't overdo that, please. Or any other timber stand improvement. You got to know what's right for your property. But if we go and we fell these trees, flush cut some trees and drop them, the amount of food that we just put on the ground is astronomical. Okay, these deer are going to be hitting that tree within 24 hours. I'll put money on it. Put a trail camera on it. Put a trail camera on it on your property. I dare you to go cut down some trees. They were planning to cut down anyway, but do it in the time in which you think the deer need the food the most, because the buds on those trees or the browse that those trees will ultimately produce will be super beneficial. It's a natural food source that these deer are used to browsing on already. We're not going to gorge them to death with a pile of corn and give them something called rumen acidosis and ultimately basically kill them because they gorge themselves to death by eating a high carbohydrate meal. They're familiar with this food source. So especially in your northern climates where you're worried about your deer herd, it's a tough winter. You had that cold snap that we got, back in December, and you're worried about your deer and you can't supplemental feed, and you're not going to supplemental feed with a high protein, high fat food source. If we go in there and we cut trees down and we give them a food source that they're familiar with, they can feed on it, they can stay healthier. And here's the thing, the more of that we do, the better off your herd is going to be come September. It's a goofy concept, it's a goofy way to think about it, but really, if we think about it this way, the sooner that those deer can bounce back from a harsh winter, a tough rut where they traveled a lot, lost up to 30% of their body weight, the sooner they can put that body mass back on, the sooner the body can focus on antler production and just overall being healthy instead of trying to recoup, they can start to thrive. And at that point, assuming Mother Nature works with you through the off season, through the summer, and you don't get droughts and things like that, you're going to be set up way more beneficially in the future as far as having a healthy deer herd, possibly bigger bucks, more mature deer, maybe not more mature deer, but those mature deer just thriving. If they have to go through a harsh winter and big mature timber and there's nothing on the ground level for them, it's going to be an issue. You're going to lose deer. And ultimately, doing these timber stand improvements is going to help your property throughout the other portions of the year anyway, if we do it the right way. Don't go out there to cut a tree, but cut a tree, do it strategically, and do it now in this off-season time period in which the deer really need the food. Give them a food that they're familiar with. They'll be able to bounce back quicker. You're not going to hurt them. You're going to get a good inventory as to what's spending time in the area still, and hopefully get some plans set up for the next year. Maybe a buck shows back up that you're completely unaware of. And here's the thing about trail cameras. We know this already. Just because you put one out doesn't mean you get every deer on camera. I would say you're probably getting maybe 30% depending on where you put those trail cameras. Unless you have a bait pile down or a supplemental feed pile or a feeder or something like that. Or in this case, cut down some trees. This is going to help you give you intel as to what deer are spending time in your neck of the woods, what made it through gun season, made it through your season. And it's going to pull those deer in front of your camera similar to the way a supplemental feed pile would. Because those deer really need food this time of the year and they're slaves to their stomach. So if that's the only food in the area, because you cut down those trees, great. At least you did something for the deer, but it's also going to benefit you as a hunter, habitat manager, ultimately make your property better. So it's one of those small steps that you can take in a time of the year in which everybody thinks there's not much you can maybe be doing to really benefit the deer herd right now. There are, and that's what I would recommend. Doing timber stand improvement to create food for deer right now is a great way to keep those deer healthy and get an inventory as to what's around. So if you guys like these quick tips, you like these videos, you like these topics, you know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe. Always doing giveaways. Can't win our giveaways if you're not subscribed. See you next time.